for the online discussion, and it's a great pleasure. Today we are having a great, amazing young individuals from the African continent. And before we get to the introduction, so today's topic is going to be about the state of education in Africa. And thank you for joining us. Please send in your comments, and you can share your experience and all that. So let's get started. We have our colleague from Ethiopia, Desta, Joanita from Ghana, and Mboti from Namibia. So welcome. And I'm Falecia, your host from Tanzania. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. So maybe we can just start about sharing about what you do, just a little bit, so that our viewers can have an idea of what you do. So can we start with my right, my left?
I don't know, let me start then.
Okay.
Well, my name is Desta, as she said. I'm from Ethiopia. I'm actually, this is one of the topics that we discussed today. Topics relevant to education are something that are very dear to my heart. And primarily what I do is I'm a engineer by training. I have an IT company back in my home country, and also in a process of launching a delivery business company. But this is like my business, but like socially we aim to improve the quality of education in Ethiopia too.
Okay.
So this is like the field that I work on.
Thank you very much. Joanita?
So back home in Ghana, I run a vocational school. I'm the CEO of a vocational school or a trade school back home in Ghana. So for us, it's all about practical education and not necessarily the theory aspects of sitting in class and at the end of the day getting a certificate. It's all about bringing the practical to the forefront back home in Ghana. That's basically what we do.
Okay.
And what I do is I do economic research by profession, but like Desta, I share a passion for quality education and increasing the accessibility to education. So I'm working on a startup in that regard. So I'm excited to be a part of this discussion, just to talk more and dive deeper into that.
Okay. Okay, that's really great. So I just want us to just reflect in our own countries, like looking at education. I know it's a broad thing, you know, from early childhood education. We have different diversities as well and dynamics in terms of the primary education, secondary school, and tertiary education as well. And she's just spoken about the practical experience, the practical, you know, part of education. Maybe, I don't know, how do other countries, maybe Ethiopia, the integration of practical and theoretical skills in the education system. What's your view on that and the experience on that? And maybe we'll also hear from Helena as well.
Oh, okay. Generally, I think this is something that throughout the continent we share together, kind of like, you know, the quality of education, especially when it comes to the practical training that is involved in education. It's not up to the par that we expect it to be. And we had a discussion with you earlier about how the people who are supposed to working for companies don't have the necessary skills needed to work efficiently for those companies. So practical education is something I think we lack in Africa, because we tend to focus more on the theoretical education. And these discussions like this can help us identify the challenges, and maybe we can find the solutions from our discussions like this.
Okay, so in Ethiopia, is it are there job opportunities that, is it the lack of jobs, or is it jobs are there but do not match with the the students that are graduating and the skill set? How is it like?
Yeah, well, enrollment wise, the enrollment of education and public education especially has increased exponentially in Ethiopia. We used to have only one university, public university. Now we have more than 50 universities.
Okay.
It was a big improvement. And you can consider enrollment wise, in people who graduate from upper educations universities had increased at the same time. But
Okay.
generally, like there is also an employment issue, and employment is a big thing in Ethiopia. But like, even if the like unemployment, there is also the concern of whether like the people who are graduating can like have the necessary skills to
Okay.
work on the especially higher level kind of like industries that are like increasingly coming to Ethiopia.
Okay. So this is a good story that universities are increasing and enrollments are increasing, not to that level that is desired, but somehow. Helena, can you tell us your experience about the public and private education? How is it like? Is it like the same? What are the challenges maybe? Just your perspective of Namibian experience.
Namibian public schools definitely have, okay, so let me start here. We have free education that's accessible to everyone,
Okay.
but Namibia's education system really lacks the quality. So it is accessible, but the quality of education is not really that great, which then limits your opportunities at the next level of education, so to get into tertiary education on a public level. The private schools are quite good. So there is a huge gap between what the private schools are teaching and what the public schools are teaching in Namibia.
Okay, so that's also interesting. I think we also have some free education accessibility. So, but again, with free education comes the compromise on quality.
There's a quality.
Yeah. So, Joanita, can you also give us your experience maybe on how does it work, the vocational skills? How does that create employment opportunities for youth? And maybe you can share your story as well. Like, how did you start to, I think you have an academy, yeah? You're training youth to have these vocational skills. Yeah. So how did you get started and
All right.
So the success of it?
Before I delve into how I started, I'm just going to give a brief overview of education in Ghana. So we have a high literacy rate because way back we had campaigns of send your child to school, education is important and all that. So when it comes to literacy, a lot of people are literate, be it and now we have free secondary school education. So from kindergarten right down to free secondary school education, you can go to school for free. So now a lot of people are in school. When it comes down to the university, we have quite a number of public universities, but because there are so many people that want to go to the university, now we have a new business in town for the private universities, whereby we have quite a number of private universities also springing up. But then again, comes down to the quality.
Yeah.
Is the education being churned out, being given to the students, adequate and enough to train our youth for the jobs and the industries that are coming out? No. So we're having a lot of employers complain that your people come, they can't do basic stuff, things that you are expecting that they would have learned in school, they can't do it. So every day there's that huge gap of there are no jobs. First of all, the jobs are not matching the literacy rates at all. That's one. Secondly, those that even eventually get into the work sector, the standard and the quality is not the best. So I graduated. I have a first degree in economics from a private university in Ghana. I decided to go private because of the huge number of students at the public schools. The number is really huge. You can find a lecture hall with about 200 students, 150 students to one lecture.
Okay, I mean, I think their worst example is like going a lecture hall with 400 students.
I'm being nice. Thank you. So I prefer to do a private university also because I wanted a certain in-depth lectures in economics. So I did a private university. I finished, couldn't get a job like a lot of graduates in Ghana that are just home not getting employment. It's kind of normal to finish school and stay home for about 1 or 2 years or 3 years before you get a job, which is not supposed to be. But that is how it is in Ghana. So immediately you get a job, we'll be like, who do you know there? How did you get there? Wow, you're lucky. And the abnormal has rather become the norm. So that's the fate in Ghana. So after I went through so many things of trying to get a job, not finding one, I had an idea of starting a vocational school whereby after all we are already graduates. So when it comes to in economics for that matter, so we know a bit about costing, how a business should go, policy setting and all that. So it should be that easy for us to manage whatever. So I had an idea of setting up a vocational school where we teach skills that are not cost intensive, because definitely if your aim is the unemployed, you can't be having skills that require 50 million, 100 million companies to set up, because you don't really have anything. So that's how the idea to set up the school came about. So we've been running for about 4 years now, and funny enough, we are getting a bit of the unemployed people, and we are rather getting more of the unemployed clients, because they say the salary from their jobs is not enough, so they need a second source of income, and they need multiple sources of income. So we're having a lot of employed people. Our Saturday classes are almost always full, and then our weekday it's still getting there. But I've realized that people look down. There's a sort of stereotyping when it comes to vocational schools and people that have done that. And that's good. And the stereotype is still there. So because of that, someone will still prefer to print CVs and go job hunting, dropping it every day for 1 year, 2 years, than to come and learn a vocation and start working with it, because he feels I'm a graduate. Why should I come and learn a skill? Why should I learn sewing? Why should I learn baking? Why should I learn cooking? But back home in Ghana, these things that people think I'm a graduate, why should I do it, are fetching more incomes.
That's true.
Are fetching more incomes than the salaried worker. I remember so well, I saw someone's wedding cake price. I was like, huh? Is that how much you're charging for one wedding cake? She said yes. I'm like, okay. So we need to do a lot of education, and the stereotype must go. Vocational education is important. For me, I think across Africa, that is one of the ways we can use to reduce that huge youth unemployment we are having on our hands.
Thank you very much, Joanita. And I think this is a very good initiative, not just to look at a problem, because most of the times to look at the educational problems that are related to, these are not our issues, the government must do this. But hearing stories that, you're young and thinking about a way to solve the problem with what you have, and I think, this is that is a trait of most of you guys. So it's that mindset to be a problem solver. If I don't do it, then who will? So maybe let's talk about the mindset of African youth. Do you think most of youth like this, like you, I, Juanita, and Desta out there? Do we represent a majority, or it's something that we still need to work on? How is the mindset of African youth in terms of, being change makers and problem solvers? Because I think that has a lot of impact to education. Education is not just about content, but even the mindset. What could be your views on that? Maybe Desta, and then we hear from Helena.
Well, I think this might go back and forth between the government. Part of the the stereotype that Joanita referred to earlier. It is because even government workers who tend to be hired by the government or by the public, they tend to have salaries that are very laughable, and students will be when they're in grade 8 or at the primary level, they'll look at them and they will say why would I need to go to school if I'm going to end up getting a salary like him, while the other person's not going to school is getting a lot of money. And this goes back and forth and creates that loop of people, and young people especially, not interested in education. And there is on top of that, there is low quality education, non-interest, and then this feeds each other. And then at the end of the day, we have people who got out of school, but they still cannot spell their name the right way. And it's the common thing, but generally I identify the challenges in African education system are maybe lack of funding is one, corruption at the educational institutions, and also there is also lack of supplementary material, and we talked about this with Helena. We want to work on that how to create a digital system where people from across Africa can have the supplementary material needed to help them add up to the knowledge they get from the practical, from the education system, from the. So generally, we want to capitalize on that, and that's how I see myself trying to come up with solutions to the challenges and the problems we face. I know a lot of people have good intentions, but intentions are, as one person used to say, good intentions are, failure is filled with good intentions kind of thing. So that's how we want to work on it. But generally, I think the youth should have the chance to for better education, and then that will I think help in creating a solution.
Thank you. Back to you. And do you have anything to add on that?
I mean, I fully agree with Desta, and he said we are really trying to work on a way to get supplementary material. But I think beyond that, every child has a curious, disruptive mind. We see it in children as you grow up, and they're taught to think in a box, because every child when they're born actually naturally thinks out of the box. So I think we, the village around our children, are failing our kids. We are teaching them to keep it here. We are teaching them to become doctors and engineers, and because that is what is accepted and that is what is okay. Instead of saying, you know what, you like to play with things, you like to fix things, become a plumber, right? Because you're good at that. And we are actually putting society, us, everybody, all of us, are actually putting that stereotype on them, so that they look down on vocational schools, they look down on bakers, and they are not even able to dream that far or even think that far, and they think that they cannot make money from it. When in reality, we grow up, we get a degree, we get a job, then you realize, hey, I actually don't make enough money. Right? So then let me go back to this, my skill or my passion or whatever it is. And then you find people, I mean, even in Namibia, it's a very common thing where you have people who are economists or engineers or accountants or whatever they do, but they also bake on the side, or they also do beads on the side, or they also do artwork on the side. And it's because they realize that, hey, I can actually make money from this. I mean, in my country, for example, if you look at nail technicians, right? Nail technicians actually, when you calculate how much money they make about the same amount of money as someone who is working in an office. Even more, right? Because it's tax-free, right? But you look down on it because you're thinking, oh, this person is just working in the salon. So I think we as society also need to change the message we're giving to our kids as they're growing up. And I think that is how we can then encourage them to want to go to a vocational school like Juanita's.
So you touched a bit on digital, so, and we're live, we're streaming live all the way from US, and reaching a lot of youth and different people across the world. And technology is a powerful tool and channel, to educate, to inform and empower people. But I don't know what are the challenges of that, or what are the opportunities for that, especially for youth in terms of education. So maybe we can share a little bit about that. Maybe Juanita, do you incorporate the digital aspect in terms of vocational? How is the penetration rate? Maybe, I don't know, for the use of, is it friendly? Is it, I don't know. So
digital or internet technology back home in Ghana is a big deal. Almost everyone has a phone. Almost everyone is on social media. It's such a big deal. Everyone is online. Everyone is on social media, Instagram. It's a big deal. We have a lot of software developers. It's something else. So for me, what I do is that because I am myself not really a tech person, I have partnered with some tech people that help me out with all the tech stuff that has to be done. So I employ a lot of social media work and website designing. I call my tech guy, and now we need to do this, how do we go about it? And now we need to do that, how do we go about it? Because in as much as the skills are good and they are fetching, the way the world is moving and at the rate at which the world is moving, you need to move at par with technology. Otherwise, in just a matter of time, you're just going to be there with nothing more to do and nothing else to do. So it's really, really important that technology is made part of our work. Now you need technology for everything. So I can't say that I'm just going to be doing, let's say, sewing, and I'm not going to add social media to it. I'm just going to sew in my house, sew at my workshop, and I'm not going to go online and learn about digital marketing, learn about social media marketing. Otherwise, your market scope is always going to be very, very small.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure majority of us even got here through seeing the ad on social media, and they were like, okay, I'm interested, let me apply for this thing. It's really, really, really important for you to add technology to your work. And for me, we do that back home then.
Well, the way I see it is technology, whether we like it or not, has a higher penetration rate in Africa right now. The mobile penetration rate in Africa is very high. Internet penetration rate is also on a rise. So what me and Helena talked about is because there is a extreme lack of supplementary material in African education system, and most of the supplementary material that we use is not like based on the syllabi of the specific country that we want to target. How about like build a content that's like, you know, based on the syllabi of the specific country, and then help in improving the quality of education. And also this is like also like helps like when you like put it on digital, it can also help promote the self monitored kind of learning. You don't need to have like a specific schedule. You don't need to be like go to school in the morning and come back. It's just like, you know, it breaks the cultural kind of like, you know, about like going to school. And also it also like helps to alleviate the amount of like qualified teachers that are there, because mostly what we wanted to do is just like select the best teachers and then like help like, you know, put their content out there. And also like just what touching on what Helena said, there is a huge gap between private education and public education in Africa, and given the fact that like most people in Africa are in public education because they cannot afford the private education, it's only fair that we focus on that kind of like, you know, platform so that it can reach wider audience.
And just adding to what Desta said, one of the biggest problems is the quality, right, of teachers. And that is where the quality of education essentially starts, because like Namibia, for example, if you look at the curriculum, is brilliant, right? The curriculum itself is great, but the way this curriculum is being delivered is the problem. So if you have an English teacher that can barely speak English, then your learners that you're producing will only be able to be as good as their teacher, unless they themselves have an option to say, hey, I want to go onto this platform or go somewhere where I can supplement that those whatever I'm getting. And I think also in my country, for example, we have a very high failure rate, and we always assume that it's because the kids don't want to study, right? So you take away the blame from the teachers and you say, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to study, they don't. But I mean, you can only go so far, especially in that youthful mind where you know you're not really able to think that far ahead yet, right? So if you foster that culture of, you know, my teachers, I don't like my teacher's bad, and you have no other option for the child, then it becomes difficult for the child to succeed. So like Desta and I are saying, what we're trying to do with our project is we really want to put the child's education back in their own hands and say, if you want to study, if you want to supplement what the teacher is doing, and if you are serious, here is an avenue, here is an option for you, so that you're not at the mercy of how qualified or how willing or how passionate your teacher is. And it's a matter of, do I want to study or do I not want to study? And then that is what determines your future. Also, I think that the African system, and I'm not sure how it is in all your countries, but in our country, there's an issue with adult learning. If you mess up your education from up to a certain age,
which is common,
then getting back, right? Getting back is like
you can't get back.
There's no options for you.
It's like a linear system of education.
Exactly. So we want to open it up so that adults can go and teach themselves, take an exam, and get their education. I mean, because maybe you wake up, maybe you're playing in your 20s and in your teen years, then you wake up at 30. If the retirement age is 60, you still have 30 years of your life, right, to build a career. So we just want to open it up and, reduce that inequality a bit, because really, I think as Africans, we must admit that our current system is not very fair. Yeah.
And I think you have touched on something very important, the flexibility of the education system. We have to go like through 2-7 or 2-8. It's like once you skip one step or you fail one step, you cannot continue. But as you say, it should be adaptable, it should be flexible. Like you can start from anywhere, and if you mess up, you can switch, looking at the opportunities and things like that. So I want to move quickly to the exposure part of the education. I think, you guys were in US for the Mandela Washington program. It's a leadership program that, integrates African young leaders into this. And I think it's a very important part of education, because it gets us to be exposed, with each other, learn about each other's countries, culture, traditions, and way of doing things. But also we get to learn from these developed economies like US and see the opportunities, how they do their things. And I think it gives us a lot of insights. So what are your views on the part of exposure when it comes to education, maybe with experiences from your countries and maybe your personal initiative? Like, I don't think this opportunity was just open on the table. I think it was I know it's a competitive process, and you guys, perhaps you did take some steps to be informed and things like that. So what's your view on that? And maybe I can start with Joanita.
So the exposure, woo! I wonder why you're asking me this question today of all days. So having a vocational school, one of my main aims for coming here was to see as many vocational schools as possible and model it back home. So I went to one this morning.
What did you find out? Tell us.
The principal and I spent a good 2 hours together.
Okay.
We talked a lot. And then afterwards we had a tour of the school.
Okay.
Class by class, workshop by workshop, facility by facility. I came back sad.
Yeah.
Not because how on earth am I going to model? How on earth am I going to model this exact same thing back home?
You can
do it.
Okay, so yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's
where do you
don't worry, you go there. You see what I'm talking about. So for instance, when you go to the auto shop, there were about 10 cars there. And the auto shop or the auto technology class is just like a modern day mechanical shop.
Wow.
Oh, don't say the wow yet. I'm not done.
Okay.
A modern day mechanical shop. Companies donate cars to them, brand new cars.
Really?
Thank you.
Okay.
And the students get to, sometimes there's a bug fixed on it, and the students have to diagnose the problem on the car and fix it. That's the technical side. When it comes to the culinary, they have a restaurant. So as you're learning all the practical as you're learning all the practical stuff. They have a restaurant side that they open to the public. There's a carpentry workshop, there's a welding workshop, I was blown away.
Wow.
And what even got me thinking so much was the fact that they have 95% capacity and none of their students pay school fees.
Really?
Wow.
That's very, very new.
Thank you.
And incredible.
How am I going to speak to my government back home that give me funding for 2,000 students, for 3,000 students? And each student, for instance, I asked him about how much the welding program costs per student. And the welding program per student costs $9,000 for 1 year. And that is a 3-year program. So for per student, we have 27,000 for a year. And per session, per day, they have 40 students. So for the welding program alone, the US state is spending 27,000 Ghana cedis times 40 a year on one student.
Wow.
And they have 28 programs.
Wow.
I can imagine.
Thank you for feeling what I'm doing.
That's exposure. That's exposure.
That's exposure.
Yeah.
That's exposure.
So I actually have a question for you, Joanita. do we know why the US government feels the need to invest so strongly? So what is the government getting out of it?
I think what the government is getting out of it is the fact that they know that they are giving everyone a chance, so that no one gets out of the system.
Exactly.
Giving everyone a chance so that no one gets out of the system. So be it, one thing I even found interesting was the fact that majority of his students are 15 to 18 years.
Okay.
So it's not about, so he says, so you're done with the junior high school, you're done with high school. He wants to give, I spoke with the principal, he says there are 3 options: either go to college, either go to trade school, or maybe you want to go to the military. We should point it out to the students that these are the 3 options and they are all equal.
Very important.
Brilliant.
And they are all equal. So be it this is what you want to do or this is what you want to do, the chance is there, the opportunity is there. And can you believe?
So it's the culture thing.
It's a culture. Even though he was complaining about stereotyping, I was just saying in my head,
You have not seen.
you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Sure.
Come and see proper stereotyping, because according to him, some of his courses is a serious competition to get into it. You need to have 86%. So students have 84, and he has to go tell the students, that the mother of the students, that you had 84, I'm sorry, but your students cannot go into the web design class because our acceptance rate is 86%.
Wow.
And plus, it's not only about like not being left out or the government feeling like he could accept citizens because they're just citizens, but just we gotta understand that like whether it's Ghana or Ethiopia or Namibia or Tanzania or anything, our existence or our competitiveness depends on us promoting the vocational education. Vocational education is very important. That's why in the US government, even there's higher priority of you getting acceptance here in the US if you have that vocational skill that's needed, because people who are trained in that kind of field tend to be very industrious, tend to be very hard workers, and tend to support the economy that's needed. We cannot all be doctors, or we cannot be, because let's admit it, being a doctor sometimes is boring.
They should not hear you. Doctors should not hear you. I'm sure for them it's also exciting.
They understand what I'm trying to say. I think it's just like everybody has his own kind of thing, and in here what I understood is, it's just like the culture is different. The culture is everybody is equal. Like you can be anything. And we were remember you guys, we went to this social program that we had, and we went to ask children. They were all 5 years old. And one thing that surprised me was I was asking this little girl, and I asked her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said she wanted to be a ballet teacher. Not a dancer, a teacher. And I was like, that shows the diversity that is instilled on children, even when they were kids, from the childhood years. There's this diversity of what she wanted to be. It's not like in our country, there are the top 3 things that a child in Africa would tell you is either he want to be a doctor or a pilot or I don't know, engineer or something. Something like
depending on what he or she knows. It's like you can only see as far as you can be, as far as what you see. So you want to add on that?
And what's interesting is I always use the analogy of bees. You need, every queen bee needs her worker bees, and the queen bee, being the CEO, cannot make the honey on their own. Neither can the worker bees, make the honey without the queen bee. So at the end of the day, we need, like I said before, we need plumbers, we need so many different types of people just to make our society work.
Professional ones.
Just to make it function, right? Because imagine your life without a plumber.
Why
right?
do people say plumber?
Or
She's reminding me of an example.
You know why I keep saying plumber? Because plumber is one of those professions that, especially in vocational training, that people especially look down on, forgetting that a plumber is probably one of the most lucrative careers you can get, because it is a necessity. When are you ever not going to be able to need a plumber or an electrician, or you understand? So I think we need these types of skills. We need a baker for my wedding cake. Who is going to make the wedding cake if we do not have bakers in society and everybody's a CEO?
And to add on that, vocational education skills are very important, and I think they are the ones who are helpful the most when you want to start your own business.
Yes.
they are the easiest. Like they have, they offer it the easiest path for you kind of to be a self-employed individual.
Exactly.
And there's nothing like more like something bigger than being your own boss kind of thing, like deciding what you should do, what you should not do. So like I can like stress more on this
On
thing,
the
like
vocational
vocational
training.
training.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much, our viewers. We are talking about the state of education in Africa. We're almost wrapping up. So we have amazing guests here from Ethiopia, Ghana, Namibia, and I'm from Tanzania. So let's just go back to what we're discussing, just like takeaway. Like I know we're doing incredible things back home in our countries with this experience, perhaps the connection that we have gotten, and perhaps even maybe we had our own stereotypes as well with regards to education. And I think hearing from your stories, I think there is greater future, amazing future for Africa in terms of how we have evolved, our dynamics. Like if it's not happening so fast in Tanzania, maybe Ghana is doing something great, and if we mix with Ethiopian experience, something good might come out of it.
Learn
So
from
it's
each other.
yes, there are more great lessons to get from, and that is a good sign that we are gonna get there. So what are you gonna do after this? After this experience, way forward. This is a way to.
After this experience, model as in my capacity what I can do.
Did you guys see that there were some questions coming in?
Yeah.
Did you want to answer any of them, or?
Yeah,
Sorry,
can you
go
help
ahead.
us read them?
Can I have you read them?
I can't
Do you have Roger?
I can't access from here, so I don't know if there's a way to get to them.
Someone said to Joanita,
Okay.
how is she integrating digital literacy in Ghana to support vocational education? I wish to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
So how I'm integrating digital education into vocational education. So we've decided that for each of our vocational skills that someone comes in to do. So for instance, you come and learn jewelry making or beading. We are going to teach you all about social media marketing. Going to teach you how to use Facebook, especially any of our social media sites to market your work. We are going to teach you about design, so that if you have to do a flyer or do whatever it is, you're not going to do a very wacky flyer that no one was going to look at for just 1 second. Then again, we've also decided to do a website programming and design to add that to the class, because for me, whenever I'm bringing a course to Haima Academy, I make sure it is a course that has market both locally and internationally. Because I don't want you to be trained in a skill that no one is buying. In the end, you're still very much broke. So those are the few things that I'm doing and adding it up. I must say that when it comes to technology, I'm a novice there. So I'm relying on my team and the people that have that knowledge, and we bring a lot of programs together.
Okay. That's great. So we can. Is there another question?
Is there another question?
That's the only one I saw.
Okay. So thank you, our viewers. Unfortunately, we can't get to the questions and comments quite quickly, but I hope you can bear with us. Just add them, and maybe we can address them later or something. Sure. Yeah. So. Someone was saying something.
I think I was talking about what are we going to do once we go back home. Yes. I'm going to try as much as possible, and I've spoken to a lot of people, especially when it comes to the trade schools. So I'm going to try, and then everything that I have heard here and I have seen, model it back home within my capacity.
That's great. Helen, I know you have an interesting initiative that you're doing. Can you tell us about it and how you're gonna add value to you?
Yes. So my current platform, or this project that I was trying to start, is called Team Graduate. It was both an e-learning and a motivational and support tool for the learners. The e-learning side, I'm hoping that we could do it together with Desta, because we want all of Africa to be able to have access to it. The motivational and the support side is really where I believe that the village that is around our child, as I said, needs to take responsibility for the children and the minds of the children that we are producing. We need to take responsibility for guiding these children and guiding them to get the right goals. So I'm going to provide videos where children will be able to get guidance on careers, be able to ask questions about what my next step should be after I study. We want to allow them to have psychometric tests, which we're going to do along with the platform with Desta, so they can discover their strengths and figure out, do I really belong in an office, or do I actually want to go to a vocational school? And hopefully in my lifetime I can change the mindset of Africa in general to get them to realize, as Joanita is saying, that whether you go into an office or university, formal tertiary education, or whether you go into vocational school, it's equal, and create a labor force where we're putting the right people in the right spaces. Because I think that is how we're going to foster the economic growth in Africa in general.
That's great stuff.
That's really great.
Yes.
Well, I think she almost like mentioned at every point that I
Okay.
was saying. In terms of the e-learning kind of thing, like we believe like the need for supplementary material for education. We believe the need to duplicate kind of like having the quality like teachers that are needed. We believe that on self-monitored learning, and we believe on the young adults education too, because nobody should be left out because at some year or somewhere he is left. And this like can also help enhance the distance education, which we know is only available in higher education, but like we wanted to take it from bottom down, from the primary level up to the almost like to secondary level. And I believe that's the basis where like you can create the young, which is like dynamic, skilled, and who's ready for the market.
I love how we're talking digital, e-learning, e-commerce. So this seems like an amazing.
That's where we're moving.
Yeah,
That's the whole world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love
digital.
that.
Yeah.
I love the integration. So just one final sentence by every one of us to every person that could be viewing this right now, every young person. What is your goodbye message? One statement.
That's a tough one. I could start. I think my message would not only be to the learners, but also to the parents of Tanzania and Africa at large, to say, let us not let entrepreneurship or any other career you can think of become the new doctor, engineer, accountant. Let us allow our children to base their career and their future on their passions and their natural ability, so that they're able to really give the skills that they naturally have, and they're able to contribute that way to our different economies, because that is how you will have proper economic growth. And just to give an example, a lot of us in Africa, we complain about the quality of public healthcare, for example, but I strongly believe if you have a nurturer as a nurse, you're not going to have people dying in your corridor, because naturally it is not the natural inclination of the person to allow that. So let us build our labor force based on their natural skills, and not based on the dreams we have for our kids that this one is going to be a doctor.
That's true. Yeah, and just to add to that just a little bit, like when it comes to that, like following passion, parents misunderstand that for like security, job security. So maybe we should also urge as young people, we should think that it's possible to have a passion and also create meaningful, decent jobs and incomes out of that. That is very important. You can have both. Enjoy what you do at the same time, making a better livelihood.
So I'm going to give a very live story of something that happened to Mike Gela, the principal of the technical school that I attended today. So he had an issue with his plumbing, and then he called a plumber. And the plumber again. And the plumber told him that for him to drive over to his place is $85. No work done. Driving over to his place is $85.
US. Let's just make that clear.
yeah, because
not Namibian
dollars. Because we're talking about a live case here. So in the end, he came, fixed the problem in 20 minutes, and he had to pay him $150.
Okay.
Vocational skills sell.
Exactly.
And they make money.
Very true.
So if that is where you are naturally inclined, parents, society, if that is where the child's interest is, kindly guide him or her to get the best of training. That's and true. Let him or she fly in that area.
Exactly. I like that.
Like,
yes.
I think the social kind of thing and the educational and the parenting is mentioned by them. I would focus on the government, I think.
Yeah.
So I want like
The big guy.
Yeah.
the big guy, neighborhood kind of thing, to be open to initiatives that can help improve whether it's a vocational education, whether it's the theoretical education that's available there, and not to be like this resistant. Once I have this, I don't want to change it kind of mindset. I think within Africa, not only us, there are a lot of people who want to help improve the education system and education quality. I think the government and also should be open to initiatives that are come to his way, and also this is a kind of public-private partnerships are very important in improving the education system. And I urge any private companies who have this kind of desire of helping the society by this is something every company is willing to do, but cannot find a way in.
True.
So flexibility is very important, and that's all I got.
You winded up that really well. You want to
I
add?
just want to add, for any companies that do want to help us with our mission, you can contact us.
Sure.
We are available. We are being trained here. We're ready for
You're ready
investment,
for
and
investment.
we're ready
Yeah.
to change the education
And
game in
governments too.
Africa. Yeah,
And
governments,
governments
private
should
institutions.
consult us. Huh?
Holla at us.
Yeah, I like that.
Ever ready.
Yeah, so thank you very much, our viewers, for being with us today as we spoke about the state of education in Africa. And we had amazing guests here: Desta from Ethiopia, Joanita from Ghana, and Helena from Namibia. And I'm your host, Falecia, from Tanzania, from Nani. You can catch us for the next 24 hours. This video is going to be live here, but we'll also upload a better version as well on YouTube, our channel, Nani. Please subscribe and follow us. It was a great pleasure. Till then, see you. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Have fun.